Here are a couple of things I'd like to suggest to anyone who's planning on building a small retaining wall like this out of wood. And that would be that you could run into these problems here. Same problems if you don't use stronger structural supporting posts. As you can see right here, this one is missing. And it looks like the one next to it is actually gone, and someone went ahead and drove a metal post into the ground to keep it from falling apart. Now I went ahead and I drew the same kind of a thing, give you a model, kind of what I'm talking about. If you're going to use smaller posts, you're going to use a 4x4 to support larger, something like a 6x, something that's like I'm going to say 5.5 inches wide, 8 inches wide, something like that. Then there's a good chance that if the post is going to be buried in the ground and the wood that you're using to keep the dirt back as a retaining wall is going to be touching the dirt on one side, then there's something here you should really think about. The post that goes into the ground will be exposed to dirt from all four sides, and the wood that is used to keep back the soil as a retaining wall is probably only going to be exposed to dirt on the backside, and eventually it might even get some dirt in between the two large boards there. Let's face it, dirt will work its way in, and it's not just the dirt we're concerned about, it's the moisture that will get absorbed into the dirt for a long period of time, and then of course transfer into the wood, causing it to rot. So in this video, I'd just like to point out that if you're going to use, and I don't care if it's pressure treated post unless it's a special pressure treated post, and don't forget you can always contact your lumber yard. Don't go to a home improvement center. You might want to go to a lumber yard in your area to see if they have different grades of pressure treated materials that might have more chemicals in them to make this stuff last longer. Or you could always go with a galvanized post, something that is going to last longer. But the main thing here is that you cannot just simply put a 4x4 post into the ground, especially one you're going to get at Home Depot that's not going to have the same chemicals in it or the same pressure treated process that you're going to get with other pieces of wood. So it's just like, I've seen this plenty of times. Someone will have a railroad tie retaining wall supported by cedar 4x4s, redwood 4x4s, pressure treated 4x4s. And after a while, the fence is falling apart and they can't figure out why. Why is this thing falling apart? Well, that's probably the reason is that there's too much moisture in the ground and it is rotting the post out before it's rotting the wood that's holding the retaining wall together. There are other posts you can use also, but don't forget that if you use a heavy-duty post and you use, I don't want to say, if you're using railroad ties, these are heavily treated materials that are going to last a long time. But they rot over time. I've seen this plenty of times. People think that cedar and redwood doesn't, termites won't eat it. Hello, that's a myth. And they think that railroad ties won't rot. Well, they don't rot if they're sitting on top of gravel, like when they use them for railroad tracks. But they do rot when you bury them in the ground and there's enough moisture in there. So give the moisture a thought when you're building a retaining wall like this. If it's going to be a problem, you live in an area where it rains a lot or you got a lot of moisture, you might want to use steel post or find another type of retaining wall to actually build.